Hello, everyone. Good day. I hope you all are doing well in this current challenging time and situation due to this COVID 19. On behalf of Sargent Systems Private Limited, I would like to welcome all of you and thank you so much for joining today's webinar, which is on a very interesting topic, a smart EV triage solution in pharmacovigilance operations. So before starting, I would like to introduce you with our today's speaker. We have a two speaker today, Mr. Ashish Bandarkar. So Ashish is a pharmacovigilance professional having about 9 years of experience into end-to-end pharmacovigilance operation. He has worked with different reputed organizations. Currently, he serves as a subject matter expert dedicated to our pharmacovigilance solution PvH. With that, we also have Miss Riddhi Doshi. Riddhi Doshi is overall having 14 years of experience into the industry. She is senior regulatory affair consultant and has a demonstrated history of working in pharma regulatories. She provides subject matter expertise in pharmacovigilance and had extensive domain knowledge in many other regulatory affair operations. So we're starting the presentation part now. Uh, I have just a few instructions for all that. We will first having the presentation part, which is on today's topic. After that, we will be having the question answer session, which is at end. So if you have any question, you can write down into the chat box and we will answer it at the end of the presentation. Meanwhile, during the this presentation, I request everyone to keep their mic into the mute mode so that the presentation will be go smoothly. Right? Thank you, Ashish and Riddhi. Over to you.
Okay. Uh, Good evening to all, and thank you for your valuable time. I hope you are all safe at your homes. And today, on this knowledge sharing session, we're going to have a very exciting topic of structured case intake, the integral part of structured case intake, that is also known as EV triage solution in the pharmacovigilance operations. So let us start. So yeah. So first of all, before starting to the brief introduction about the EV triage, let's have first some sort of background regarding EV triage. So when it came into existence and how it was executed. So we will first move towards then afterwards we move towards the basic processes of EV triage. So first of all, around 22nd of November 2017, the EMA declared that they are going to have a common EV web portal for downloading all the ICSRs in XML formats when R3 was implemented. At that time, the switch was implemented, and every MH, like manufacturing authorization holders, they got the opportunity to register at EV web portal, and along with a particular specific organizational ID. It has been given to them by the EV Wave, and they were they were actually able to register at the EV Wave portal, and all the ICSRs which are exactly related to their product, that is also known as active pharmaceutical ingredient or INN. So according to their product for which they are having the marketing authorization in EU, so they got that registration access of EV so that they can easily download those cases, ICSR XMLs from EV portal. So there are certain, as we all know, as we are aware of EV triage process in structured case syntax, like we are downloading the E2B XMLs from EU Drug Vigilance and then putting them into the safety database, from where we can import them in the safety database and we can perform the triage and all the ICSR operations. So, but there are many internal steps exactly are involving EV triage process. So we will go through that process now. So first of all, I just mentioned regarding the end user of any MH, they must have to be trained trained with the EVWeb portal. So they should know each and every aspect of EVWeb once they log in inside, how to select the filters and how to apply the options or MH filter or any activity filter, how to apply all those aspects. So they should be trained on that. After that, the most important aspect comes into picture is registration aspect. So the first of all, there are two types of EWeb registrations right now EWeb is offering. Those are mainly used in structured case intake and also in other aspects of PV operations. One is for the normal registration of MH on the basis of organization ID for EWeb portal. That is the normal registration, which is actually mandatory for each and every MH to download the ICSR in XML format. Second registration type of registration is PvD'code, that is also known as Ultra Vigilance Data Analysis System type of registration, which allows users to generate the electronic reaction monitoring reports, ERMRs, the ICSR line listings at once, the active substance groupings, and the individual ICSR forms like COMs at once. So these two types of registrations mainly EWeb has offered to the MH. So along with that, there is one facility of delegating those registrations to third-party service providers like PV service providers. This facility is enabled by EVWeb, so that if any MH is outsourcing their case intake activities or overall PV operations activities, so these service providers, they can register at EVWeb on behalf of the MH or any IT firm who is performing all the PV operations for on behalf of MH. They can register at the portal. So along with that, the most important aspect behind registration is the QPPV, the role of QPPV. Actually, we can register multiple users under one MH, but that actually depends on the size of the organization and the scale of the scale of each organization, which they likewise they defines their business processes in relation to the interaction with the EVWeb. So likewise, you can say if any certain EU service provider is there, so if they are registering on behalf of any MH, and if their capacity is more than 5,000 cases a month or else 10,000 cases a month, then in that case they can have the multiple registered users, which are to be actually approved by the QPP person. So that has been appointed by the MH itself for the region. So in short, these are all registration and training related and some of the aspects of EV triage. Second, the most important aspects is after registering to the EV web. Once we log in into EV web, there are certain options and pre-filters and obligations we need to select before downloading the ICSRs in the XML formats. So there are some obligations. We will go on those obligations separately in the upcoming slide. So basically, the main filter while downloading the ICSR is INN based filter, like it means the active moiety filter. So we need to exactly enter our active moiety, for which we have the authorization that MH they have the authorization for the EA region, so we can add that into the filter. Along with that, we need to add the date ranges. The maximum allowed date range at EVWeb has been around 15 days, and the end date that we can add 3 days before the available date, so that we can avoid duplications of XMLs which are going to be downloaded. And we can select many of other filters. There are around 15 filters. I can list few of important filters like organization type, so that like some of the national competent authorities, or else non-national competent authorities are also there. Along with that, the primary source country, we can narrow down the cases according to country from which we have received them. The worldwide unique ID, which is actually the regulatory regulatory authority ID, means provided by that particular competent authority. And along with that, the report type, like spontaneous, like from studies and other report types. So we can apply all these types of filters, and we can have narrow down the download of the ICSRs in a particular Dropbox or in a particular folder for processing our ICSRs. So the second most important aspect is the ICSR classification versus the XCV MPD. XCV MPD is nothing but the extended ultravigilance medicinal product dictionary, which is actually enabled for each and every MH. So first of all, what they need to do is they have to register their INN or active moiety in this XCV MPD. Then and then only they can download those XML ICSRs. So moving towards the further steps, after having all those filters applied, we can hit the count button in the EV web interface and we can download all the XMLs starting from serious, non-serious, MH, like related to our MH or non-MH. We can download those at once. So and we and further step, which is the basic part of triage also. So after downloading, suppose we are downloading around more than 500 cases or else 1000 cases. So it's we need to first of all segregate those cases as per as our active moiety first of all. Then we have to segregate those cases on the basis of MH, non-MH, like the cases which are exactly related to our MH, our marketing authorization holder. We need to segregate those. Then we need to segregate the invalid and valid cases. Then we need to segregate also duplicate cases. So it might be possibility that in that package of 500 ICSRs, we might get the duplicate XMLs also. So, and after that, we have to, after segregation, we have to prioritize those cases and import into the safety database, and then we have to process it. So likewise, you can see this is actually the process of EV triage, what exactly happens there, starting from the download and segregation aspects. So it's like a complex and cumbersome process. So yeah, we might have seen multiple times that every service provider, they have an individual team of structured case intake from the UDRA vigilance cases operational over there. So moving towards the next important aspect, as I just mentioned regarding the obligations. So the important obligations like EV web download. So as I just mentioned, after 2017, UDRA Vigilance, they have implemented some access policies. So there are few of the access policies which are mandatory for MH to classify their downloads. So they have to select those PV obligations before downloading the ICSR. So there are around 6 obligations. We will go step by step. One first one is L3 obligations. So if any other MAH or any other sender, they have uploaded the ICSRs on the portal, so they can have the full access to that data sent by that particular MH or organization through this L3 obligation. So they can download overall their ICSRs with the full access. So there won't be any restrictions. So second one, in the same level 3, we have the most important parameter, that is MLM, which is also, which means medical literature monitoring. So in the L3 obligation, we can download those literature cases from the like ICSR XMLs for literature cases. We can download those via selecting this L3 literature obligation. Third obligation is the majority used obligation, that is also known as L2A, which is a partially restricted access for the MH marketing authorization holders. They have they can download those ICSRs which contains the suspect or interacting active substance for which they have the license in the MH without the narrative. This is the most important point. So we can only download the ICSR XMLs without the narrative via this L2A access. And this is the second one. So the L2A combinational product access, this is also partially restricted access via which we can, if any particular MH is having a combinational product and both the suspect products are they have the authorization in EEA for the both the co-suspect or interacting or a suspect product, so they can download via this L2A combination obligation. The fifth one is level 1. This is the most restricted access. So if you see all of the above mentioned 4 criteria are not means if you are not meeting all of the above 4 criteria, then you can download via this L1 access. So which is actually restricted to only some of the MAH. So they have to apply it differently. The last one is one of the important aspect is L2B access. So this would be only granted for the signal evaluation and signal detection team. So we can extract the safety narrative, safety narrative from the XML ICSRs. So 2 different types of accesses, L2A via which we can extract the narrative, and L2B via we cannot extract the narrative via L2A, and via L2B we can extract the safety narratives. So these are the types of overall obligations, which are nothing but the EV wave access policies, and those has to be mandatory selected by the MH while downloading the ICSRs. So moving towards the most important point. So current challenges in EV triage and the specific pain areas throughout this EV triage process, starting from initial download to the case creation. So the first, as I just mentioned, downloading the R3 XML files. So why this is challenging? Because there are around number of 15 filters that we need to select, and these 15 filters are very much variable according to the MH which actually registered on the EV web portal. So it is very difficult to select those filters each and every time, and those filters are actually interchangeable. So every time we need to change the dates, every time we need to change the seriousness, or every time we need to change the source countries, activities. So these filters are variables. So daily we need to change it, or else weekly we need to change it. So it's quite difficult to download these multiple XMLs at once. So we are downloading around 500 to 1000 cases. So it would be so difficult to go for any service provider case intake team to download all their clients XML at once via implying different filters at once. So it is very difficult for them. So it is the pain area for any PV intake operation. So the second, the most important parameter, as I earlier mentioned, so this is the important step of EV trial, that is segregation. So once you are downloading the cases, likewise, if you say if you are downloading 500 cases at once, so it is very difficult for us to segregate those cases into MH and non-MH, like exactly how many number of cases are exactly related to our MH, our marketing authorization holder, or any others marketing authorization holders. So that segregation is also important. Sometimes it might be possibility that other MH cases can also get downloaded. Then identifying the duplicates, identifying the invalid cases. So it is like, for if we are downloading 500 cases, then we need to analyze each and every XML by opening them into a readable format or somewhere, so we can identify each and every XML, and we have to segregate it. So this is the most cumbersome task for any case intake individual or any case intake operations, especially in structured case intake. So this is the one of the most challenging concern right now. So along with the second concern is the readability of R3 XML. So as we all know, we must have seen the R2 XMLs by ourselves. So those are quite readable. Actually, you can read the data elements, you can read the different nodes of R2 XMLs. But for R3 XMLs, it is highly encodable format. So it is very difficult to read those R3 XMLs at once. And if you are suddenly getting thousands of XMLs at once in the one download, then it is very difficult, and it is very frustrating sometimes to read each and every XML for the segregation perspective. So this is one of the most important pain area. Moving toward the next one. So as I just mentioned, for multiple number of cases, more amount of manual efforts are required, and more resource utilization would be there, and which ultimately result in more resource hiring and more expenditure. So you can see, I have seen multiple in multiple companies or multiple service provider, they do have a team of around 20 to 30 people of in the case intake team itself for this UDRA vigilance structured case intake. So it is very difficult for them to, so due to this cumbersome manual efforts, which ultimately result into time consuming more amount of time consumption via different processes, like duplicate check, each and every MA check, then follow-up check, whether the case will go into as a follow-up, or whether we need to create is an initial. So for each and every XML, we need to check it. So selection and rejection, it is the most time-consuming task currently in EV triage process. So ultimately, all these parameters impact the efficiency of any PV operational team, decrease the overall efficiency and the productivity of PV team, more amount of resource expenditure, which also result in more budgetary aspects, and it will impact overall PV operations. So we cannot utilize those critical resources in other aspects of case processing or PV operations. So if suppose we can say, all these cumbersome tasks, as we have seen that these are complex processes, starting from the download of ICSR XMLs, and processing, analyzing those XMLs, segregating those XMLs, then selection and rejection of those XMLs, and ultimately at the end the case creation. So starting from the download process to the case creation process. Just imagine if we try to automate it at one click. So how it will be possible? So without any like very less amount of manual intervention, it is possible via new technology solutions. And how the automation will function and how it will process in the EV triage activities and operations, my colleague Riddhi will show you, and we'll have a quick run through all the automation aspects. So over to you, Riddhi.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you
Yeah.
for the introduction, and thank you, Ashish, to give the industry insight on how one of the crucial PV activity, PV triage, is been done all over in the industry. Now, I would like to take it further to how this thing can be automated, and how automation in this is helpful to overcome the bottleneck faced by PV user while doing triage activity. One of the most important activity which I have identified, which is there in the industry, is the readability of the R3XML of the case. As we know, what we download from the ultra-vigilant database is an XML file, which is in the R3 format, which is quite difficult to read and to understand the case. So to have the basic, yet the crucial information about the case, which would help in prioritization of the case, that information should be provided in the tabular format, which helps the user to identify the case. Generally, we would use the sponsor and the organizational detail and only the date, and with these two obligation, we would download the case from the database, ultra-vigilance database. Only by these parameters of filtration given, multiple XMLs are downloaded. So what happens is, we will have multiple XMLs in our hand to be segregated. The case becomes the whole process becomes very cumbersome task if the readability is not that user friendly. In that the case, one of the key factor in the automation should be the readability of the case, and to have and the crucial important basic information of the case for the further processing, and a complete detailed information should also be there, should be available to the user for further processing of the case, for identifying the case, whether it is an initial case or whether it is a follow-up case, and accordingly creating the case ID on the basis of the information given. So crucial part of the automation should be how the information should be fetched out of the R3 XML and put it into a structured and a tabular or the grid format, which is very much user friendly and viewable by the user. Next in PV triaging automation is how from the multiple cases which are downloaded, the PV user would segregate whether that case is for its MH drug or not, and also to see whether the adverse event mentioned in the case has not occurred in launch in the market. Such identification and such permutation combination would go under the check of whether it is an MH case or non-MH case. This process will also help in pulling out those cases which would be for our drug which has been marketed. After looking into the marketing details of the suspect or the concomitant drug, the case would pull out and would set under the bucket of the MAH, and putting other cases into the invalid cases bucket or some other place where it would reside, which would say that you have gone through all the cases but yet not been as per your permutation combination, not being, you have still gone through those cases but you are put aside in a separate bucket which you're not, which according to you is an invalid case which is not pertaining to your drug. And this whole process can be predefined with the use of predefined parameters, and algorithm can be automated. By this, we complete one level of segregation. This will filter out major of the cases pertaining to our drug. Only those drugs further can be put for the next filtration. So moving ahead, once the first level of filtration is done, we perform another activity or another action on to find out whether the case is a duplicate case or not, whether the same case with certain extra information has been come from the user vigilance is already existing in our PV database or not. So that is the another important task to find out the duplicate case. By the use of the predefined algorithms, every MH and sponsor have their own predefined permutation combination and certain filtration parameters, certain actions to be performed onto the PV database to find out the duplicate cases. And this algorithm can be automated and should be automated in such a way that it is flexible enough to variate as per the requirement, as per the SOPs of the MH which they follow, and can be embedded into the automated system. So this will reduce major of the efforts of the users to go through each and every case, each and every XML, each and every case in the database, which helps in reduction of major efforts of the PV user. So all these cases should be presented in the tabular listing format. So the next step to it for the automation should be once all level 1, level 2 of the filtration is done, all the cases should be in the one glance should be there in the grid format, and in such a flexible grid format where you can also perform the case actions like searching actions of on that particular XML, which are not yet gone into your PV database, but they are there in the midway to process for the further putting into the case ID. So this can be pulled out in either in the Excel sheet or in such a way where you can have the whole set of XMLs and whole set of cases at one site. This reduces the human efforts with a predefined algorithm in the set of the automated system, which helps you in bifurcating the case. Having the segregated cases for imported case and for the ignored case should also be part of this system. As we know, one of the compliance perspective is that if in the case your drug is mentioned with your INN, you need to process that case. You need to go through that case, and then you can decide whether it comes under your review or not, can be segregated at this point of time and can be done automated and put it in the separate set of recitals, separate sets of the bucket, whether to ignore it or to move ahead with the case processing of that particular case. So the automation system should have the provision to show all the cases which has been reviewed and has been found appropriate for the further course of action. Moving ahead, so after this whole process of automated segregation, next week would be importing the case to the safety database, whichever may be used by the user. It should be in such a way, this automated system should be in such a way that it should provide the integration link between the automated system and the existing PV database which has been used by the NH, and further for the case assessment and the medical review or the quality review. The automated system should be easily integrated with any of the safety database. So this should be the whole package, that whenever we move ahead with automation, this has to be the whole package which will help in reducing the human efforts, and any of these steps in the automation are skipped, then the human effort would not reduce up to 70 to 80% of the level. So to achieve that target or to achieve that percentage of lessening the efforts, all these are the pre-defined and pre-allocated steps. Now, I will show how, if we implement the automated system, what should be the workflow should be set for the easy processing and working of the cases in PV triage. First of all, firstly, it would be XML downloading provision, which should be automated, auto-scheduled without any human intervention, putting down all the obligatory functions, all the filtration, all the parameter pertaining or depending drug-wise should be automatic, should be set predefined as in parameters to download all the XML, and should be scheduled in such a way that every day or every other day it should be automatically download and should set into the bucket where the further processing should be going on. So second to it, the XML which will be downloaded should be appeared in a place for the further XML analysis that can be analyzed and can be put into the XML analyzer. With the help of automation, XML would reside in the image-wise dropbox. So the user efforts would reduce here to segregate the case, whether it is the our image case or the other image case. That means we go through the first level of filtration. Generally, while downloading the case XMLs from the Udra Vigilant portal, user can just give the date range as one of the obligatory parameters. He did not set all the 15 parameters drug-wise, or if the company is working with multiple clients and multiple client-wise, he did not use so many parameters, so many permutation of combination. Just by giving the date range, the automated system would pull out all the information for that particular client and would handle in and would be put into the XML analyzer for the further processing and for the further bifurcation of the case. Thirdly, once all the case comes under the client-wise bucket, the tabular view should be available in the workflow in such a way that the user can easily identify that case from the basic information of the cases, such information can be the grid format, and information would be like case number, the source country, the suspect drug, the event, the seriousness of the drug, which helps you in prioritizing your cases and which helps you in moving further putting down into the as an safety ID. As we know that XML are not in the readable format, this brief information in the tabular format, in the grid format, guides the user for the further processing. Moving ahead from this to next workflow step, as mentioned earlier, the auto check of this XML on the basis of the whether our drug, MH drug, or the duplicate is then this action would be performed, should take place, and also highlight us the follow-up cases, whether a particular case is an initial, it should go into the database as an initial case, or already there is a case for the similar information and a follow-up has come up with the extra information which can be highlighted and can be shown in the grid itself. This whole set of automations once takes place, which helps reduce 70 to 80% of the workload of the user, PV user. And now once this process is completed, the workflow should make the whole XML in the readable format, either giving all the detailed case in the Excel sheet or in other such format like PDF format, where all the details, each and every detail of the XML would be viewed. And on the reading of and going through the cases, the user can take a decision whether to put it in further for the safety ID or whether to make it as invalid or the ignored case. So all such XML should reside under the import tracker, where all the case XML on which the further assessment can be done and the safety ID can be generated as per the SOPs or as per the MH workings. This helps the user to keep a track on all the working and activity done on that, all the downloaded XMLs from the Udra Vigilance. And alongside with the import tracker, there should be a bucket where all the rejected XML cases should also reside, along with the remarks from the qualified PV user. So this should be the workflow for the automation, which helps the user to move swiftly and smoothly in the working of the EV triage activity. Now moving ahead, I'll just give you a brief looking into the algorithm or SOP, which in general all the PV industry users apply to find the duplicate case. Certain case actions to be performed on the PV database on the certain parameters and filtration. and putting into all these parameters together with different set of the permutation combination, automation and predefined factors could be set for the automation. So these are all what you can see are the parameters which can be considered. First of all, we can have a check on the authority number, which will reduce the cases. If not as per the authority number what we have, it will reduce. Furthermore, there can be a permutation combination of patient initial, gender, and product field. Furthermore, you can filter out with the use of event, whether it's from the LLT or the PT, or further can be accessed through the safety ID. So all these parameters taken into care, taken into action, and this action would follow in your PV database, in your existing cases where all your cases reside in the PV database. All these parameters and action would follow depending on your algorithm or on your SOP, what you're following, and your permutation combination. This can be achieved, this automation can be achieved to find out the duplicate case. Now next to it would be, I would like to explain how the automated system gives you the exclusive benefit of using the case and the PV triage activity. As you can see, automation reduces manual effort, as we have seen that how much filtrations are needed, how much parameter searches are needed on each and every XML, and our own PV database would be loaded with thousands of cases. To go through each and every case and find out the duplicate non-MH case is a very huge task and really requires a lot of manual efforts to do that. But this automation can, with the predefined algorithms, SOPs mentioned, it can be achieved more accurately and more in a more productive manner. Maximum efficiency can be utilized from the PV team. Instead of such operational activity of PV intake, we can always put this system of automation into the place and put the PV team and use the resource of the PV team in more critical tasks, and less resource utilization can be done. Faster reconciliation, speeds. With the use of automation, we can see how speed is affected. More cases can be handled. Maximum volume of cases can be handled with more accuracy and speed. Customization, as I mentioned, that we can see that all the MH or the sponsor would have its own algorithm to find their own MH case, to find the duplicate case. This algorithm should fit into the automate system in such a way that it can be customizable as per the requirement of the drug or requirement of the sponsor or the client. Further to it, if this whole automated system is ready, we can deploy it on the cloud, well, in a validated environment. So the quick usage, the next day usage can be, the next day operation can start on this. So it should be quickly deployed deployment solution. Here I will just quickly go through how from beginning to the end the automation can take place. So just by entering the username password of the organization in this UDRA vigilance database, just by doing that and giving the date range, the system should pop up or should download all the XMLs, taking into consideration the predefined parameter set as per the clients, as per the MH, as per the sponsors. All the information, all the XML can be downloaded. So from the starting part of downloading all the XMLs, by not having a single human intervention, by understanding, by keeping varied Excel files at the user level for this particular drug, these are the parameters which are used for searching and downloading. These are the users. So not understand, getting into that complexity, we can always have a system where predefine all these Excel sheet which are managed by the user can be embedded in the system, which helps only by giving the date range. You can download the XML file. Then it goes for the further processing of level 1 filtration, level 2 filtration, and at the end you can get a full set of bucket or full set of XML in a bucket. There you would export the XML to your PV database. All this thing of auto scheduling, edge of vigilance, username, password, entering the username, password, all these things should be automation from starting till the entering the case in for the further case processing. So this should be the scenario, this should be the workflow should be followed for the automation of the EV triaging activity. So here I finish how the automation can be helpful for the EV triaging activity. Now Ashish will take over on showing you how the compliance factor should be taken into consideration while you do all this automation activity. Over to you, Ashish.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Riddhi, for giving in-depth description about how automation will impact the structured case intake in every PV operations, how it will increase the efficiency and productivity, and how the resource utilization could be efficiently done by decreasing this, by increasing the efficiency of the team by 70 or 80%, you can say, and how we could automate those. So but the main question comes into the picture regarding the compliance aspect. So any solution, if it is automizing any process, so it should be compliant with the global guidelines. Actually, the guidelines which are prescribed by the regulatory authorities like EMEA or US FDA or else ICH. So here are a few of the guidelines that we can make a compliant automated solution. So 21 CFR Part 11, as everybody is aware about this, these guidelines. So electronic records and signatures. So everything which we are importing in the in this EV trial solution, so that has to be securely imported, encrypted, and efficiently processed. So there should not be any data leak or any sort of variability observed in the solution. So the most important factor is 21 CFR. So as I just mentioned, there are two parts of ICH ICH implementations were there, R2 and R3 schemas. So both of them, the the solution which we are designing, that has to be the compliance capacity of reading both the schema of R3 and R2. The third important aspect is MEDRA point to be considered guidelines. So likewise, as we are importing the ICSRs, the seriousness of the case definitely is dependent on the assessment of the events which exactly are coming in those ICSRs in different data elements and different nodes. So identifying those events and putting those events into that automated solution. So for that purpose, we need to have an efficient solution who will be able to comply with this MEDRA point to be considered guidelines. So it should be compliant with those. So next one is ICH E2B M2. This is nothing but those are massive specifications which are exactly related to R2 and R3 schema. So design of R3 and R2 is nothing but a safety message creation schema. So that schema is exactly designed under the compliance of ICH E2B M2. So the most important compliance here is the solution should be compliant with the M2 message specifications. The fifth one, which is also most important, the XCVMPD compliance. So likewise, I just mentioned every MH, they will be able to download the ICSRs from the EV web portal when they have exactly registered their the product, their active pharmaceutical ingredient in XCVMPD. So for reading those products, the capability of any solution, if we want to develop, then it should be compliant with the XCVMPD. So it should be able to identify those INNs or active pharmaceutical ingredients which are for which exactly we are downloading those ICSRs. So next one is R3, as I just mentioned, both the schema R3 and R2. After R3 implementation, it should identify the PVP guidelines prescribed by the US FDA. As I just mentioned, EV triage is integral part of structured case intake for any US client. If we are processing this structured case intake from E2B by downloading these E2B XMLs, so it should be compliant with the structured intake guidelines which are given by the US FDA also. So last one is the most important part from UDRA vigilance itself. It's like it's GVP module 6. So all those structured case intake processes how it should be automized and how it should function throughout the cycle. So everything is given there in GBP module 6. So whichever solution we should develop, that has to be compliant with the module 6. So at the conclusion, what I wanted to say is, along with the prime automation aspects, likewise you just went through, you just mentioned regarding starting from the automation aspect and the compliance aspect, will make a solution efficient, more globally acceptable, and will help most of the service providers PvT. So we at the Sargent Systems, I just wanted to account here one thing. We at the Sargent System, we have developed one solution which is known as PvD'code. Likewise, just what Riddhi had explained, starting from the front end interface of EV web download, automated download interface, and case segregation aspects in duplicate, auto duplicate check without entering any duplicate parameters in the database. Whenever we perform in other global safety databases, you can see you need to enter all the permutations and combinations to identify whether that case is duplicate or not, or whether it is follow-up or not. So all these aspects are automated here in that solution. So auto duplicate check, auto follow-up check, non-MH and MH check, all the segregation aspects are completely automated at one click. The front end downloader, XML downloader from the EV web itself, it is also completely automated. And so starting from the download till the case creation, overall process is automated in the solution. So we at the Sargent System, we worked extensively on that module, and we have developed it at our end. So just a quick brief about Sargent Systems. We are there in global GXP solutions, regulatory solution development since 1998. We have our customers in 50 plus countries, 400 plus project installations we have done, and around 60,000 plus global users we are having. And we always follow the ISO 9001 2015 quality strategies, and we are currently focusing on the cloud ready solutions, so those can be easily deployable. So at the end conclusion, let's have a brief questions and answer session. Over to you, Rohit.
Yeah.
Hello,
Thank
Rohit.
thank you, Ashish and Riddhi. It was really very nice and very informative session, I guess. I hope our participant also having the same feedback. Let's have a quick question and answer session. So I would like to request all, if you have any question, please write down into the chat box. Our presenter Riddhi and Ashish will answer your questions.
Okay, I can see one question here. Just a minute. Okay, I think it's the question about the interoperability and the integration aspect with any safety database. Riddhi, could you please answer this?
Yeah, so here, as I mentioned earlier also, whenever we go through any automated system, after doing all these efforts of segregating and filtration part, the outcome or the output of the case should be in such a way that it should be easily integrated with any other system. So either the output should be in an Excel format, which should have each and every detail of the case, or it should be in an itself, it should be in an XML format, whether that could be an R2 or R3 format, which could be easily intaked in any other PV database. So this is how the automated system should work, that at the end also it should be giving you the format in such a way that can be easily integrated onto the any other PV database. So as mentioned earlier by Ashish, one of the solution, PvD'code, gives an output of this case triaging into an XML format, which can be easily integrated with and imported into your PV database.
Okay. So add on to this, so the segregation aspects and all those triage activities would be automatically completed by the solution itself, and at the end bucket, whichever XML segregated XMLs which are there, so that you can easily upload and import in your E2B pending menu of any safety database. So you can have a proper integration between our solution and your safety database. So this is one of the most important aspects. Okay, I can see one more question regarding selection of PV obligations and how the front end downloader will exactly work. Okay, so that is very nice question. So we have okay, we have extensively worked on that how the EV web portal functions. So as I said earlier, there are around 15 filtration parameters we need to patternize and we need to parameterize in the front end interface. So we have been working extensively on that front end interface so that you can actually enroll different image of yours. Like if you are a service provider, you can enroll a different of number of clients over there. You can add their credentials on the front end itself. You can add the respective filters through which usually you download the cases on the front end itself, and only you need to change the date range on the daily basis while you will be downloading. So you just need to enter the credential on the front end, just click OK, and you will directly get those XMLs in the Dropbox itself. So those get the, and after that those gets automatically processed in the PvD'code solution. So this is the how front end interface works.
One more question which has been received is how any solution, or give the details of the solution, how PvD'code would be working on this particular configuration section. So as I said, that all the permutation combination of the check and the filtration are customizable. So depending on the MH, depending on the drugs, there are certain drugs which require different set of check of the duplicate, for the duplicate cases. All can be predefined in an algorithm and can be set as per the requirement, and can be filtered out the information or the cases in the automated system. Yes.
Over to you, Rohit.
Aspect, we received a question saying that what can be the complete view of the case, how it can be given to see the R3 XML. So as I said, the format to pull out the complete information of the case can be either in the way of XML, or can be provided into a PDF format, so that the user can go through each and every detail of the case for the further assessment of the case. So this should be one of the output of the case at the case level.
So in the PvD'code means like in the solution itself, you will be able to see the R3 XML in PDF format, so you can easily access it, whether means if you want to access it for your ICSR creation purpose.
Yeah. So one of our existing client is asking, as we are already using PVH, can we integrate it into existing model, or do we need to use this as a separate database? So I'll just brief with the users that we already have one of the another case processing, end-to-end case processing database, that is PvEdge. And this what we're talking about, the automation is another module for downloading, and which takes the PV intake operations into consideration for the automation of the PV triage. So yes, we can easily integrate that this module with PvEdge, and it will work with the same database. There's no use there's no requirement of putting up or setting up the separate database to it.
Right. So do we have more questions?
I am not seeing any other question left now.
Okay. Yeah.
Fine. So if you have any further questions, so you can write down to us your query at our email, sarjan@sarjan.com. We will surely help out to you to solve your questions. Sorry, but we have one question from Mr. Swapnil. What determines the access
Rohit,
like? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there is a question from Swapnil. What determines the access like L2A and L1?
L2. Yeah,
The question.
L2A, exactly. This is, yeah, Rohit, you can
Yes,
take
you
the
can,
question.
please.
Okay, so sorry, so the most important access, actually majority it is used, that is also that is known as L2 access. There are two types of L2, L2A and L2B. So L2A I just mentioned. There are also again two types of L2A. So L2A, first type, it mainly functions for the if any single active ingredient is there, for which the MH or any sponsor, they have the licensing in EEA, so they can select or they can add that single active ingredient in, or INN in, or API in the EB web portal in the filter, and they can download those XMLs via these obligations. So L2A for single active ingredient and L2A for combinational active ingredients. Like if any active ingredient is the part of any combinations. Suppose likewise you can say if diclofenac and paracetamol are two active ingredient and they are together in one tablet, and we are searching for only diclofenac and we are getting the cases for so we wanted to download the cases of this combination also, because our drug is existing in the combination. So we can use this L2A combinational obligation. So we can download these combinations also. So you just need to select the L2A obligations upside in the web portal, and you just need to mention the combination so that you can narrow down the ICSR download and you can get those ICSR in your Dropbox. So these are, and L2B, as I just mentioned, L2A, these two obligations, you will not get the narratives of the ICSRs, but in order to get the narratives, so you need to apply the L2B obligation. So basically this obligation is mainly useful for signal detection teams, because they want the narrative for frequency of the events and for other proportional analysis for the signal detection aspects. So L2B analysis is for only for narrative, which is not that much majoritarily used. So basically only those two obligations are used: L2A for single product and L2A for combinational product. I hope this cleared your query.
Yeah. Uh, I think there is no more question left now. So once again, thank you so much, Riddhi and Ashish and all the participants for joining today's webinar. It was really very nice webinar. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you,
you, Rohit.
Rohit, and thank you,
Thank you all
Riddhi,
the
and
participants.
yes, yeah, thank you all the participants, and hope you will stay safe. You will remain at your home and stay safe. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.